So we've had quite the week, Dr. Dyer, and you know that this is going to be our last show for a couple of weeks because you're going to be on the cruise, on the I Can Do It cruise. Mm-hmm. So I want to give people a chance to talk to you and get in touch with you. But I mean, just what an amazing week that we went through. So many ups and downs and people feeling very emotional about Michael Jackson. And you were telling me before the show that you had actually spent some time with him. You're going to relate your experience.
Yes, I wanted to speak just a little bit about Michael, just a few minutes. Michael was... he was one of the. I heard Deepak, who Deepak and I've been talking every day for the last week or so because of some health concerns that I have, and he was saying on CNN that Michael was probably the most spiritual man he had ever met, and I can attest to that as well. He called me up one day back in 1991 after I had written a book called Real Magic, and asked me if I would like to come out and bring my family, which is, a whole plane load. So all 8 of my children went with me and my wife. And we spent 5 days out there at Neverland with him, just talking to him. I went up on a mountain up there, and just the two of us talked. And his question to me was, is there such a thing as real magic, and what is it, and how do I get it, and I want to know about it. And he was just so filled with excitement about this. And what I really, what concerns me when I see particularly a lot of the messages that are coming in on the internet about people making accusations about this man, and that troubles me a great deal because this was the kindest, sweetest, most beautiful human being, and I trusted my children with him. Obviously, he when he was out there at Santa Maria County, there out in Neverland, the prosecutor there had a real desire to do something, to go after him. They had I think the statistics were that they have 76 police cars in that county, and they sent 74 of them out to his ranch to go through and look for evidence to support these accusations that were being made by a woman who had made a career out of going after celebrities and so on and trying to make money. And in the same county, there were many of the priests that had been not only accused but had admitted to sexually molesting young boys, but they didn't send any cars out for them. And then all of the evidence that they acquired was presented to a jury of not of his peers, but of people who were not, even that friendly toward him. And they voted 12-0 to acquit him on every single charge. So I know for absolute certain that this is a man who could never have done anything that would be harmful to anyone. He was very much of a child himself. He was as kind and decent and spiritual a human being as I'd ever had the pleasure of spending any time with. I dedicated one of my books to him. When you look at his enormous talent and the commitment that he had to ending world hunger, for example, he personally was responsible for cutting the number of people starving to death on this planet in half back in the 1980s and 1990s with We Are the World. It was totally, and he took no money for it at all. When I spent the time out there at the ranch, the whole thing was organized around children who were handicapped in one way. The theater that they had out there, the entire amusement park, all of it was set up so that children who were hospitalized and in beds and sick and on crutches and so on could come there and experience the joy of what it meant to be a child. This was a beautiful, beautiful human being, someone who will go down in history as one of the greatest entertainers ever. But more than a great entertainer, this was a great man who lived a very tortured life, particularly in the last several years of his life. I think being accused of those kinds of things when his heart was so pure, I think it
must have taken its toll.
It took a huge toll. It took a huge toll on them. I was telling my children last night, I said, anybody can make an accusation such as that. They could have made an accusation when my wife and I split up. I mean, and I've heard of people. I just talked to a friend of mine who was in practice as a physician, and he had an affair, and his wife got angry at him, and she went out and made accusations about him and their children in that light, none of which was ever true, and it was all dropped. But ultimately, it ended in his suicide. So these kinds of accusations, these kinds of things that people say, be very careful about that, and know in your hearts from me, if you trust me, that my time with him in those 5 days back in 1991 solidified for me that this was a transcendent being who had not only enormous talent but a heart as big as the sky.